I hope you all had a great day. Anyone who didn't have a great day, can they raise their hand? I gotta be kidding. Good. No, I really appreciate that. This was the second Project Controls Expo in this country and the inaugural Project Controls Expo Awards last night. And I was really thrilled with the kind of enthusiasm we witnessed here and the kind of energy, the kind of passion we've seen. And I think that is what is required for our profession to grow, to advance, and spread the word so that we can continuously contribute to our capital projects for achieving the benefits. And those benefits may not to be commercial benefits. As we all know, some of the projects, especially the public projects, have different benefits. Now, I will now start off formally, okay? Because there are still people coming, but we cannot keep on waiting for everyone. We just need to make a start at some point of time. So, okay, thank you everyone. Thanks for attending the conference. I really appreciate that. I know we all had a long day and you're still sticking on. That really gives me courage, and honestly, I really appreciate that. Now, without wasting any time, I introduce you to all end panel members. Loretta from EY, Simon White from BAE Systems, Stacey from Synergy, and Keith from Jacobs. So we got these end panel experts, and we are going to discuss what is the present of project controls and what do we expect, or what do you think is the future of project controls. Where are we heading? Are we heading in the right direction? If not, what needs to be done? And one of the areas in UK Expo was the standardization for moving forward the future if we want to make it bright. So the format for this end panel is all our four esteemed panelists will share their views for 5 minutes. And after that, we'll open it for a question and answer session. And I would really like this session to be a two-way conversation. The whole day, mostly it's been one speaker talking and 400, 300, 200, 100 people listening. But this is an opportunity for everyone to speak out what they think, what their views are, what they feel, and how do they think they can contribute toward this thing. So I let Loretta from EY to begin end panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon everyone. So Loretta Hudson, I'm an EY partner. I spend my time working in and around major infrastructure programs and helping clients deliver outcomes and benefits on those. Prior to joining EY, I was a chemical engineer. I grew up on oil rigs working for ExxonMobil and embarked on my first, I guess, entree into project controls through the work that I was doing there, offshore oil rigs on Bass Strait, in Bass Strait in the Northwest Shelf, and then moved into working in the engineering and construction industry for KBR in London, and was there for a number of years prior to joining EY as a consultant, and a very proud partner of the firm and the work that we do in and around all our clients in government and private sector. So when I think about my journey as a professional and commencing life as an engineer and working in the project controls profession over 20 years ago, the major changes that I've seen are really in and around processes, people, and also systems. And I think as we look forward into the future, I think we're going to see more and more change. So from a process perspective, I think I look back on my career, and certainly the foundations that have come out of project controls, particularly in established sectors like oil and gas and also transportation, have fundamentally shaped, I think, the way other sectors have adopted project controls, whether that be utilities or defence, as project controls has matured as a profession. I'm also seeing a lot of our clients taking on board project controls into large-scale business transformation and also in and around major technology jobs. The reverse is true. So what I'm also seeing a lot of our clients adopt is, particularly in infrastructure, is move from a traditional waterfall approach in terms of delivering projects and project controls in that environment, from what would be your engineering, procurement, construction, into a more agile approach, and taking on some of the really leading learnings from some of our technology jobs that we're seeing in and around globally, which is fantastic. So that's processes. The other aspect I would say is people, and this is kind of coming into some of the data and the trends that we're seeing now with technology. But the diversification that I've seen in my career has been fantastic in terms of better gender balance, a global skill set of people in and around the project controls profession. And I cast my mind back being to a very young engineer and working in and around project controls. You had to have a number of years' experience. You had to be a very seasoned engineer to even step into the project controls environment. And typically you had to be pretty grumpy around the edges to even qualify for a job as a project controls professional. And that's hugely changed. So when I think about the work that we do in and around our clients, and certainly the team that I lead, we've got such a diversified portfolio of people that we team with. We've got data scientists in our team, we've got people from technology backgrounds, complemented by people that actually have large-scale experience in delivering capital programs, which is great. It's also great that we've got greater gender diversity and balance in terms of our team, so I'm really proud of the contribution that EY, but also we're seeing in and around the project controls profession in terms of attracting better gender diversity into the work that we're doing. So that's people, and a huge change there. I think all of this is underpinned though by what we're seeing going on in the global environment with respect to data technology, which is implementing and changing our systems. So previously, you know, you'd go and you'd speak to your scheduler and your estimator to understand where your project was. The impact of cost on delayed schedules would be something you'd have to have different conversations with two people that typically probably didn't see eye to eye. But now we're seeing the integration of systems come through. So we're seeing a lot of our clients go through improvements in and around project controls, but now looking towards a digital transformation of what they're doing, which is great. Not all clients can afford to invest in digital solutions, so we are seeing a lot of clients look at how they can better scrape and mine data from existing systems. We're spending a lot of time with our clients in that space, working with the existing systems they've got to bring together, I guess, an oracle of truth. How can real-time data better inform decision-making, reliable reporting to stakeholders? The other overlay, and just to close, is the fundamental shift we're seeing in technology. So when I think about technologies such as blockchain, intelligent analytics, predictive analytics, we're seeing that really come through on some of our projects. And I think, you know, that'll be something that shapes the future with respect to the global supply network, transportation of procurement and kit, and how can that then lead into your project controls, sort of predictors in terms of how your projects are tracking. But I think we're going to see a future and a shift that's going to be hugely influenced by data. It's going to be real time, and it's going to link the whole supply network right from your conceptual engineering phase right through to construction and commissioning. So I think exciting times ahead is what I'm seeing for our profession.
There you go. So Simon White, BA Systems, thank you very much, Loretta. Just to follow on from what you were saying, I think that my greatest frustration with the work that we do is that we're tied to 17th century monthly financial drumbeats. Yet I've got one of these things in my hand, which if you wanted to order a helicopter airstrike or a clown on a three-wheel motorcycle, it could be through that door in 10 minutes flat. But we're stuck with these monthly drumbeats, and I just see over and over and over that we are not using this technology that we have to the best power that we can do it. I don't know what the constraint is that is preventing us from doing that. We all seem to have the same kind of vision and intuitively know that it's the right thing to do, but how do we crack those barriers to actually make that possible? I'm not a technological guru, and I'm never going to pretend to be. I see the possibility is there. I don't know how to crack that, but someone in this room probably does. I don't know which one of you it is, but someone can make these things happen. Or it might be the case that if we all know what we know and we don't know what we don't know, maybe the person who can do that for us actually isn't sitting in this room today, and we need to get that person and bring them into the work that is project control. And therein lies the next problem. If I look around the room, I don't think I can see a single person under the age of about kind of 24 or 25 or so. And we need to be able to crack that as well. This is a career that we have all, I'm going to say, chosen. Mostly I think that we fall into this work not by choice but by default. I've never met an 18-year-old yet that says, you know what, when I grow up, I'm going to be an analyst, I'm going to work in project controls, it's going to be brilliant, and I'm going to do it for the next 35 years. No one says that. They don't. We fall into this work kind of by accident, but somewhere along the way there is something that lights us up. And I think Anil asked the question about how we feel about something. So if you think about yourself right now, how do you feel about the work that you do? Are you excited about it? Are you enthusiastic? Are you engaged? And how do you display that to other people and help bring them into the work that we do as well? Those are the challenges that we're all going to face. And touching upon that, we do need to be able to demonstrate to people younger than us that we're able to coach, mentor and guide that there is a genuine career pathway and there are no limits. And that we are facing a generation of people that don't know any boundaries because of things like this. You have instantaneous connection to all knowledge that has ever existed as long as you've paid your bill. It is as simple as that. And we shouldn't be concerned about that. We need to harness that, embrace it, make the most of it. And when someone comes in with fresh perspective from an outside system, which we kind of reside within now, it's easy to be threatened by the observations or the questions or the behaviours. And we shouldn't be. We've got to embrace that and run with it and really make the most of that next generation of people, because they are going to be the future of project control if we want them to be. We can set them up for success or we can set them up for failure. And that's a choice that we make on a daily basis today. And we're able to change those things by having days like this. So thank you to Anil for continuing this model. I hope to see it again next year. We'll have some feedback about various things. If any of you have feedback, you're free here to also shape the future of this event too in a way that makes it better for everybody. And make sure you bring back another 10 people with you next year as well. Okay?
Gosh. Crud. Why wasn't I first? So I think both of our panellists so far have raised some really relevant things. So we talk about technology and we talk about process and the opportunity that they offer us to improve our world of project controls and the service and the enabling support we provide to our project and program managers. One of the things that really struck me when Simon started talking about have a look around this room, what is our demographic? And I would also challenge the age barrier by saying, sorry, but where are the girls? So what are we doing to bring all of our society, all of our potential demographic into this amazing career and to help people want to understand it as a career? I'm quite pleased to see that there's not too bad a balance going on here and we've got some younger folks in. But my challenge to the older members of the profession, and that includes me as I approach half a century, is what are we doing to actually grow our apprentices that follow, to grow the community and to grow the gene pool in industry. If you look at the amount of money the Australian government will spend in infrastructure alone in the next 10 years, there is a massive tsunami of funding about to become available. The Minister Andrew Gee, when he actually spoke at the Project Governance and Control Symposium earlier this year, demonstrated that and then said the government has a real concern about where they will find these skills and these people to be able to deliver this massive investment portfolio. So my background is defence, 18 years, 7 months and 7 days before I left to become a consultant. And defence has a similar funding profile. We have a huge bow wave of funding coming that's not just acquisition funding, but it's also sustainment funding. And the department struggles to find people with project control skills that can actually help them optimise that funding that is available and be able to deliver the outcomes sought. So while I see a lot of benefit in improving our processes and improving our technology, fundamentally if we do not have the people, it will not matter, is my approach. Now my staff call this the Stacey Kumbaya moment, where we all hug, even though they're not huggers. But I think we really need to invest time in how we grow our community, how we value our profession, and how we sell the value of our profession to those that will and should come along behind us. Simon, you were quite right when you said some of us fell into it. I walked into the department as a physicist who worked in the electricity industry and the banking industry and landed in systems engineering and thought, ooh, what do these guys do? And by a careful progression of stumbling from job to job, I ended up as a cost estimator. And before you knew it, I was hooked. And I thought, this is great, this is fantastic, I want to be one of these forever. Then all of a sudden I discovered schedule and thought, wow, what if you tie this stuff together? Hey, where's the risk people? Where's the workforce people? So it started to become a real thought process about the integration of the full project control suite. how that actually became a complete discipline in itself, and how do we inspire and encourage others to want to be part of that greatness, to want to join that, to get that thrill of when you make that epiphany moment from your analysis and help someone make a decision. So for me, I'm very much all about the people, the growth of our profession, the encouragement we give those we work with now, but also those who follow us, and how we really make this a career of choice for people with the right attitude and aptitude that makes them wake up at 18 and say, oh man, I'm so hot to trot to be a project controls person for the next 40 years, this is amazing. But also to help them understand the other avenues that opens for them, and how to work with the rest of the disciplines they need to work with. Engineering, procurement, finance, project management, program delivery. How do we actually give people the vision of what this career could really be? While at the same time, I agree, we still do need to take advantage of technology and get the grip on what that can do for us and for the people we serve. Also get our processes in good shape, because it's really nice to go to your work and know what I'm supposed to do, and I'm trained to do it, and the tools really work, and I can harness the data I want to use. But we need to get the people there. That's really, really important. If we don't get the people, then nothing else will matter.
Absolutely agree with you on that one. I think so my background is project management, and came to Australia and started working in scheduling and planning, and started to really understand more about scheduling, understand what the technical skills are. But one of the things I found is it's the people that make this profession. You know, we have lots of frameworks, we have standards in project management. They don't deliver projects, they're part of it. The people that are in the projects are the ones that deliver it. And the diversity of those people. When I worked with NBN many years ago, we built a team of programming and analysts, and we had to work out how to deliver a project that nowhere had delivered. So we developed a team of experts and curious people who were from all walks of life, from defence, from insurance, from civil. And we had a lot of discussion about how we were going to do this. How do we bring in technology? How do we challenge the status quo? This is an infrastructure project, it's a telecoms project. How do we do that? Some of the systems we developed weren't available. We broke Oracle P6 a few times. We had to develop systems. We had 16, 17 delivery partners. We couldn't mandate a particular system. So we had to look at how we capture that information, bring it to one central area and analyze it. What we were able to do was we were able to find things that not everyone was able to see because we had that data. We then went back out to the delivery partners and we spoke to them and said, you know, you're doing really well in this particular area. Why is that one not working so well? And they were telling us as the client. We then realized that actually one delivery partner was doing really well in one area, but the others weren't. Well, how do we get these people in a room? You literally invite them and share their stories, talk to them. We did that, and you know, to this day, those projects, you know, we're still talking to those people. You know, we've moved on in different projects and companies, but we still talk to each other and challenge each other on how we can do things differently. You all talked about the people. I think culture is really important. There's various people out there that will talk about culture and how you develop it. I'd encourage everyone to read those books that are out there. Colin Ellis is a local guy here. He does project management hangouts. People are the core of the business, and you've got to look after them. Richard Branson talked about his CFO one day. He was going, you know, why are we spending all this money on training? And they leave. And his quote was, you know, what happens if we don't train them and they stay? And that always resonated with me to go that you've got to challenge and continually ask the question, what's next? For me in project controls, what's next is connectedness. It's interactivity between projects. It's sharing of data. It's understanding what data is available. I think all you have to do is go out to the partners area, and everyone's talking about it. I've heard it a few times today. We've got to look at how we develop that common data environment with standards, with consistent terminology, so that we can build on it. And we have to be able to understand what to do and how we can pull that together. My other hat, apart from Jacob's, is I also run the Aipm Project Controls Forum. And part of that is to encourage people to come and discuss topics like this. So I would encourage you all to join your professional bodies and start talking. We need to start developing communities of practice and sharing the knowledge across areas, breaking down boundaries. I think everyone's covered it. I can't think of anything else. No, that's fine.
Anil.
Now they have shared their views. Now we're opening for question and answers, and my team will assist in moving around the line.
A bit of a shameless plug and a bit of a shout out to sort of colleagues of mine, but to allay a bit of your fears. I'm a member of PMI, the Melbourne chapter, and I'm lucky enough to be part of a group that we volunteered our time and actually went to a school in western suburbs of Melbourne and tutored, shall I say, helped out with teaching them project management, basically from the start to finish, all 5 processes, PMI processes, and it was very successful. We just finished our last one last week on that really hot 39-day heat, 39-degree heat, trying to get a bunch of year 9s to actually sit down and listen and try to convince them that I don't just drive a Hilux as well. It's pretty hard, but it was a but I'd just like to say that allay your fears a bit, so we're trying. If you've got some groups like the Aipm, I'd encourage you to look at that as well, and hopefully then we can actually encourage some more people to come into our profession. So thanks very much.
That's really good news and quite comforting to see that there's some proactive steps being taken by someone. That's a really important manoeuvre that you're doing there. If you just think that that's Year 9 students, so we don't know where these next generation of people are going to come from. Everyone sitting in this room has got a different story as to how they got here today. Everyone's got a different reason as to why they volunteered for the work that they do. And just to quickly point out how I got to be doing what I'm doing, I'm originally a shark diver in an aquarium. And even a job like that eventually can get boring, surprisingly, and believe it or not, 3 years of getting into 14-degree water, eventually the novelty wears off. So I ended up being a fighter jet mechanic instead, which was equally interesting. But eventually, a job like that, the novelty wears off, because after 10 years of that, you get tired of smelling like jet fuel. And someone wandered into the hangar one day and said, "Who wants to do cost and schedule analyst?" And I have no idea what that was at the time, and said, "Am I still going to smell like jet fuel?" And they said, "No." And I went, "Right, I'm in, let's go." And 10 years later, here we are. So you just don't know where these people are going to come from. And you think about your own personal journeys as well. Could you cast your mind back your 15 or 20 years and think, well, what if someone had presented a different pathway to you at that time? Where would you be now, and what would you be doing? Would you be doing anything differently, or doing exactly the same thing? So that's a really good step to get into a school at that kind of age as well, and see, quite frankly, if they can do it any better, because they don't have any biases or previous experiences. They're going to shape the decisions that they make. Maybe they will actually do a better job and put us all to shame. You never know.
Yeah, I think to follow on with that, Project Controls has a lot of different skill sets that are needed. And particularly from a education perspective, you can be a really good quantity surveyor and still then go and learn scheduling and still then go and learn risk. So there's actually quite a lot of depth to the profession. So you can get bored, but you can also move on to different areas and be a more rounded individual and be multidisciplinary. I would consider myself a jack of all, master of none, but I understand that the interactions between the different systems, the different technologies, we need people to understand all of them. You know, you look at the technology today, you have to be able to talk to many different types of technology. So we need people that can do that as well, not just plan, schedule, cost control, and interact with all those new technologies that are coming out and will continue to be developed.
Absolutely. I think it's getting people to understand the relationship between the disciplines, but also the relationship to the outside world. I'll share with you a little story that rocked me out of my seat a few weeks ago. I was sitting with a young cost estimator, and we were talking about the interrelationship between cost, schedule and risk. And he said to me, "I'm a cost estimator. What the hell do I need to know anything about the schedule for?" At which point my eyes rolled back in my head spun round 3 times, I reared back in my chair, and my staff gave me the sit look. But it is that education, that sharing, the sharing your enthusiasm for it as well. But it's really a term I used to use when I first joined Synergy was, I'm going to put the sexy back into project controls. So examples like getting the kids involved are really great, because that is how we do put the sexy back into it. But you also, as Simon rightly pointed out, you bring the new ideas forward because people aren't limited by the old burnt, crusty experiences we've all had. So.
It kind of touches upon what you mentioned about the gene pool earlier on. Mm-hmm. You think in the purest of terms, if you never add to the gene pool, eventually you're going to run out of fresh ideas, and that just leads to stagnation, and we just can't behave like that.
Or all the frogs die and we end up with an empty pool.
Yeah. Any more questions at this point?
That was cheerful.
Any more good ideas?
Yes, Stacey.
Yeah, I've been messing around with planning and scheduling for a couple of years now, and I find a lot of people, I heard a presenter today say, P6 is terribly complex and we can't find anybody to drive it. Where I'm coming from is, Gantt charts and critical paths have been around for a long time. I see people shying away from it. Does anybody have a solution to what the next method of planning is? Are we going to be stuck with P6 and Project and ASA for the next 20 years, or is something else going to come up? There's a bit of stuff on 3D and 4D and 5D. Is that really going to take over? Just sort of floating. Anybody got some ideas here?
It's a tricky one, Paul. I'm a logically driven person, so I need to see things A to B to C, but I also understand that complexity in multidisciplinary projects, you still have to logically link things. How you display that is probably, I think, what's going to change. You still need the underlying schedule or activity plan behind it. Things like BIM, 3D modeling, 4D modeling, XD modeling, the technology is there. I've seen walkthroughs we've developed. We've worked with VR where you fly through and you see things and that looks different. That shouldn't be there. You can mark that up. So I don't think we're going to lose the Gantt chart, but it's probably just not going to be as visible. And I think it's going to be a lot more how we build and how we see it is how we're actually going to develop it. You build a concept design in 3D, and as you go through the life cycle of the project, it changes. Again, if you look at common data environments, it triggers a variation, it triggers cost change, it triggers a risk. It's how you visualize it, I think, is where we're going to move to. I think it's already starting to happen. I personally would like to see it happen quicker, because that's the bringing sexy back to controls. And that's, I think, where you're going to see the new gene pool going, why aren't we doing this in virtual reality? Why can't we plan in virtual reality? Because it's gamifying. And you put a game in front of any kid these days and it's good. And if you put a headset on someone and they're running around, that's sexy.
Yeah. I'd agree with your thoughts in terms of the technology being there. Some of the engineering contractors in particular have invested in this space. Tools such as object engineering, that's proprietary software for one of the contractors, to enable you to really closely manage your engineering design and move it to AFC, very much integrating with your fabricators as well. So the technology is there, the ability to then progress it into your 3D world, but also I think the simulations that are going to come in terms of some of the artificial intelligence, but also some of the modelling that's going to be really quite progressive as well. So my thoughts are we're probably only a few years away from that shape of how engineering is actually undertaken and progressed and scheduled, and the cost associated with that in terms of the estimating. I think it's pretty close.
Yeah, I would like to answer to Paul's question. It's quite interesting that how the sorry, I'm here. Yeah, it's quite interesting how the industry is moving so rapidly, and we are at the age of flip, that doing the planning and scheduling for so many years on the Gantt chart. Now we are going more of a human touch or experience rather than just on the bar on the program. So that is where the VR and we are working into the artificial intelligence. So that is going to not change the way we have thinking, but it is just the representation how we end up in representing our thoughts. And it becomes more of a human touch of understanding of how the work going to happen, rather than telling or interpretation of the 2D drawings. So it's not changing of the technology, is changing of the perception.
Well, I just would like to add a small bit there on that particular note. Sorry, come back here. Is when I started my career around 20 years back, I used to spend 90% of my time in building a schedule and 10% of my time in analyzing it. So the way future is going to be, the way AI is helping us out, I personally believe it will going to swap. So it will be only 10% time we will be investing into building a schedule, and 90% time we will be analyzing it. And I think that is what the picture we should be looking for.
I think you're right. I think everyone's role is shifting a little bit to the right. So your estimator is now going to become a resource planner. Your scheduler is going to become an analyst. So we need to broaden those skill sets and ensure that everyone is able to do that and become multidisciplinary and wear all those hats, and still have people who can deep dive, do the analytics, check to see what's wrong, but also that's the scary bit. There's a lot of it.
Yeah, I basically think something like P6 is a fairly simple tool to use. And I look at these 3D, 4Ds, these are all even more complex. And so we're moving from a situation where people can't handle the tools we got to even more complex tools. And I just think it's a really exciting future. We've got to start educating people. We've got to have more education, more courses, and this, I think, is where the whole cost engineering is falling down. We're not doing enough professional courses, professional qualifications. But that's the direction we're going. We're going to have to do an awful lot more education than we are at the moment.
So yeah, on that side, yes, I agree with you. There is a more education required, and not just the education, but the standardized education across all the sectors would be required. I mean, coming from the different part of the world, from UK, the Department of Education has taken an initiative there, and they come up with the level 3 project controls technician standard, which is kind of the first step towards defining what project controls is, how it should be treated in various industries. And now that is continuously be getting matured over the period of time. But I yes agree that the technology is supposed to make our life easy, but the complexity in some of the areas, as you just mentioned, is there. But I think that I personally feel is an evolution. It is evolving, and as we move further, it is going to make it much more easier. And the AI, it'll be playing a bigger role in putting things together, and humans will be basically engaged only for analysis, as I mentioned to you before. But yes, I agree with the education, and more importantly, not just education, but the standardized consistency across all the board, that is also equally important. The definition of the project controls, the way I can guarantee you, if I ask for definition of project controls in the audience here, I'll get 10 definitions. So we need to start from there, understanding what exactly is project controls, and educate that to the wider audience, to the younger generation, the wider demographics, as we just said. And that is where I think we'll head to the better future.
Just as a random thought, because these things happen to me when it's 20 to 6 in the evening and I start thinking about beer. Well, usually Bundy rum, if I confess the truth. One of the things that hasn't come up in our discussion yet is project controls as a leader. So we talk about ourselves as an enabler, as a server, as someone who assists and helps. But how do we view ourselves as leaders in the delivery of successful projects and programs? So I'm a great believer in leadership at all levels, that we all have the characteristics required to lead, but it's about how we employ those characteristics, we demonstrate those characteristics, and we have courage in using those characteristics. So perhaps when we talk about the education, the growth, how we manage our future, we need also to pay some attention to the role we actually play as leaders in project controls and in project and program delivery. Random thought. Sorry.
To follow up on that, for those of you who don't know, the MTIA has 2 existing roles. Pelagia was here today, Cameron Mills as well, Northeast Link and Major Road Projects Victoria, and I believe there's another position for Suburban Rail Loop. They are sitting at the table. They are directors. They're at the steering committees. Previously on these large projects, that would have gone through an operations manager or finance manager. So controls is getting the respect at the state level in Victoria. I hope that continues and that we develop a career path for people to lead in those roles going forward. So I think the future is looking good, and we are going to get at the leadership table, and we should continue to support everyone in those roles and continue to support people to get into more of those roles.
That's actually a perfect segue. So many of the faces that I see up at the panel, we've had discussions for different areas. There's some key points that have been taken and discussed at today's expo around qualifications, making project controls sexy again, engaging younger people, making career paths through this. I just want to kind of open up the discussion forums because we each come from different parts. Industry, commercial arrangements, we've seen a lot of government agencies, both at the state and federal level, come through today. The biggest blockers or the biggest issues that we actually face is, as a collective unit across industry and across government, we have much more power in the people to actually achieve and address the issues that are coming through to it. Each organisation, each industry partner have their role to play in this overall bigger picture. But I really see an air gap for the non-for-profit organisations that can create the communities and the forums to bring people, no matter what their background, no matter who they work for, no matter what their desires are, career or personalised ways, to actually come to a safe place to discuss the bigger issues. And that commercial arrangements, IP arrangements aren't considering factors to try and actually get over the blockers and get over the constraints. And if we're all adults in this conversation and the discussion, that's the chance to actually address some of these big issues to achieve greatness. If we acknowledge that we are all partners and we are all people that have a role to play in this problem, then we start to begin to actually address some of the issues and actually achieve some of the biggest blockers. Now that's just thoughts for consideration. So.
I,
Anyone else? Or the beer is calling? Thank you, Angela. Please.
Uh-oh.
Is that the time?
Uh-oh.
Okay, I'm not a project controller, so I really apologise for that in advance at Project Controls Expo. I'm a software engineer, and Loretta made a mention of Agile and what's the future. And what I've seen is there's a huge disconnect. Okay, Agile is predominantly adopted in a software development environment, and these Agile teams are being asked, give us a schedule by project controllers. And they're going, but we're Agile, right? So it's, and when I talk to them, they're not fragile, they're not fake Agile. They're not either Scrum but, we're doing Scrum but project controllers, you know. So I just want to put it out there, and I just, in the program there is nothing about how you deal with Agile, and that is a way of the future. So if you're thinking of what a future project controlling software, look at Atlassian. They are one of the global top 5 tech companies in the world now. Sorry, that's global world, I know I mixed that up. They're based in Sydney. These guys are billionaires. They do Jira, and they're just insanely clever. And it's adopting the Kanban way of watching little bits of sticky paper electronically go across the screen and tracking, controlling Agile projects. So I'm just going to put it out there to this community. And something for considering for next expos is just how agile can project controls be, because the word is control, not agile.
Challenge accepted.
Indeed, thank you. Come on, I mean, I just wanted to have this opportunity for everyone to express themselves. Where do they see? And yep, I think one more question coming up. That's great.
No, I just want to reply to Agile.
Okay, that's good.
Did anybody listen to my presentation? Maybe not. Okay. Agile, in my view, is absolutely in our future. And I'm actively looking at how we can use Jira to manage our projects, influence how our ways of working. You look at what you can do in Jira. I've got it on my phone, and I've got an activity that says substation concrete. It's actually in my presentation. I can pull my phone out and show a picture of the status of the concrete. It has a scheduled date. You can actually update the date in Jira. You can actually have linked activities of what needs to happen before that, what's going to happen after that. So even going to the concepts of, you know, is P6 or scheduling tools in the future, you look at where Jira is going and the Agile concepts. There's some things I don't like about Agile related to sprints, because sprints don't quite apply to engineering projects because we fully specify projects. But there's so much more involved than into Agile than just sprints. And tools like Jira, DevOps, everything is totally in our future.
No more questions, I believe so. Well, then,
I'll just
sorry,
have
Simon, go ahead.
just one passing comment, and then you're more than welcome to run away and go and get your flavour of poison, whatever that one might be. You're discussing evolution of the systems that we have, and what does that future incarnation or state look like. And there is absolutely no doubt that no matter what the species is, if you don't evolve, you die, and it's as simple as that. So we've got a responsibility upon ourselves as a group of people to evolve deliberately and like we mean it. And there is absolutely no doubt about that. I can't remember exactly how the quote goes, but it's an evolution. It's not the smartest or the fittest that survive, but it's the most responsive to change. And that can be a challenge because we're all analysts who like control. It's in the job title. So how do you be responsive to change? And that's a personal behaviour that we all need to get a grip on and do the best that we can. The last thing I have, Anua, is a challenge for you. it just popped into my head just before. Next year, if you could just make sure everyone gets a T-shirt, and if that T-shirt could say Project Control, it's the new rock and roll.
Good one.
And it's as sexy as hell.
There you go. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate. I mean, it's a very diverse view we have heard here, and I thank you all for giving your time. And I'm sure you all will be working towards the development of the profession, giving whatever your thoughts are, and work towards it. So I formally conclude the Project Controls Expo 2019 at Melbourne Cricket Ground, second edition of Australian version. And thank you everyone, including our partners, professional bodies, delegates, everyone coming over here, sharing their thoughts, networking and contributing to this growing discipline. Thank you very much. I appreciate everyone. And now we're going to have the beers for another 45 minutes, I believe so. And anyone who wants to go for a stadium tour, they can proceed for that at 5 minutes past 6 o'clock. So thanks again, and look forward to see you again next year. Thank you very much.